the Neil Haley Show, and a new podcast called the Lyon Share Podcast with our host, Ed Lyon. Ed, how are you? And I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Neil, I'm rocking and rolling, and I'm excited to be here. I have guested on more podcasts than I can count, but it wasn't until now that I thought I had something new to say that was worth starting a podcast of my own.
You know, it's interesting. You said that I did some research. The Podcast Index reports there are over 4 million podcasts to choose from. Even
Right, there are a
within
whole
the
lot.
tax world, FeedSpot offers a list of 100 best tax podcasts. You're going to be number one at one point, trust me. You must listen to in 2025. Why another one? Why this one?
Well, there are a ton of podcasts, a ton of tax podcasts, and they tend to fall into two groups, but they're all about the what. So the first set of podcasts talk about how to pay less tax. There are a lot of CPAs, there are a lot of attorneys, a lot of enrolled agents, a lot of financial advisors who are broadcasting, who are podcasting on how to save money on tax. What can you do to save on tax? And that's great. There's some terrific podcasters in the space, and I'm looking forward to catching their attention and inviting them to appear on the Lion's Share. The second set of podcasts are about what's going on in the tax world. Typically, it's tax news, what's going on in Congress, what's going on in the tax court, what's going on with with the financial services industry. But it's all what. What I want to do on this particular podcast is dig a little deeper into the why. So, a lot of people will tell you how to pay less tax under the current system that we have, which is, let's face it, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. The tax code is, 6,000 pages. There's a ridiculous amount of treasury regulations and tax court cases and things like that. I want to delve a little bit into why the system works the way it does, because if you understand how the system works, that gives you the intelligence you need to do as much as you can to do as well for yourself as possible. So I came across this quote a couple weeks ago, and it's been rolling around in my mind. Most people aren't interested in building a better system. They're interested in doing better for themselves within the system that we have. And those are both legitimate goals. We're going to talk a lot in the Lion Share podcast about how to do better for yourself within the system that you've got. But we're also going to talk about how we might build a better system. And we're going to round out the discussion with discussions of the politics and the economics behind the US tax code system and why we are screwed up in this particular way that we're screwed up.
Tell us about you. Why are you the right person to host this podcast?
So I've been involved in the tax industry for over 30 years, over 40 really, if you look back to almost 40, if you look back to when I first got out of college. My first job after I graduated from Hamilton College was working on Capitol Hill with Representative Jack Kemp's office. He was one of the spearheads behind the Tax Reform Act of 1986. So I was working on his staff when that bill passed. I went to law school. I graduated in 1991, started working for National Underwriter Company, where I wrote about tax planning and tax strategies, primarily for insurance and financial advisors. And ever since then, I've been in this industry. In 2005, I launched a new company called Tax Coach Software with an online planning tool. It was the first general use online planning tool for CPAs and financial advisors that focused on finding the concepts and strategies. So there's a wonderful program called BNA Tax Planner put out by a company called BNA. It is the world's gnarliest spreadsheet. You can take your taxes, you can enter them into this program, and it'll do all sorts of projections for up to the next 15 years. It will give you spreadsheets until your eyes have glazed over. But that's not how real world planning works. For starters, we know that the tax system 15 years from now isn't going to look anything like it does today. So, as soon as Congress finishes work on this big, beautiful bill, all those projections with the BNA tax planner are going to be out of date. And the BNA tax planner does projections if you make certain moves with your taxes. If you set up a captive insurance company, if you set up a C corporation, if you move some of your income into an IC disc, it can give you the illustrations, but it doesn't say, hey, you're still a sole proprietor. Should you be an S corporation? Or you've had an S corporation for 3 or 4 years, but now you're making 3 times as much money as you did. Is that still the right entity? Do you have the right combination of entities? Tax Coach created a system where you could enter information and it would make those suggestions. Be an S Corp, add a C Corp, add a captive insurance company, set up your real estate this way, do a cost segregation study. It came in with the concepts and the strategies that the other programs weren't doing. So since 2005, I've been teaching CPAs and financial advisors how to do this tax planning for their clients. I was the original pioneer in that field. Now there are a bunch of different software programs and educational programs that'll do that. Most of those programs have been created by people who were in my original training program, who started out in Tax Coach. A lot of people who are teaching tax planning now started out with me. So why me? It's because I've been doing this longer than anybody else, and I've trained more than anybody else in this field. I've also worked with a huge variety of clients, everything from mom and pop real estate agents down the street to billionaires.
There are all sorts of people hosting tax podcasts: reporters, attorneys, accountants, enrolled agents, etc. What are the differences between them, and how does that affect what they discuss on their shows?
It really affects their attitude more than anything else. So when people think taxes, they think CPA and they think accounting is about the numbers, right? If your 12-year-old is good with numbers, you say, oh, maybe she'll grow up to be a CPA. But your 12-year-old can already handle the arithmetic that goes into a tax return or an income statement or a balance sheet. It's not really about the numbers. It's about the rules, right? So the debits have to match the credits and the balance sheets have to balance. CPAs spend 4 years in college learning how to follow the rules. Then they get out of college and they start a job at a company or a not for profit or a government or an accounting firm. And when you're low man on the totem pole, what do? You follow the rules. So, temperamentally, most CPAs are rule followers. There are exceptions, of course, but your CPA probably isn't one of them. Enrolled agents have a different approach. So, a certified public accountant may or may not be a tax specialist. They are regular, they pass the CPA exam, which is a real accomplishment, but it's primarily about accounting, not tax. Now, an enrolled agent is someone who's licensed by the Treasury Department to represent taxpayers in front of the IRS. So, an enrolled agent really is a tax specialist. Many enrolled agents also offer accounting services, but they are the ones who start with the taxes. I'm trained as an attorney. That's a very different proposition. So, we spend 3 years learning the rules, but attorneys aren't trained just to follow the rules. We're trained to be advocates for our clients within the rules. We're trained to give our clients the best results within the rules. So attorneys tend to be more proactive than most CPAs. I'm making broad generalizations here. I don't want to offend any CPAs who are listening to this podcast. If frankly, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not one of the blinders on rule followers. But the problem is for a lot of people, a lot of business owners, a lot of high income people who need tax planning services, their accountant is a historian. They're not a planner. And I have a question that I ask all the time. When was the last time your CPA came to you with an idea to save money? Usually the answer is never.
It's very interesting when you look at those specific things. What sort of stories are you going to share here?
So there will be a lot of different stories, and my superpower really is I'm a superpower, or I'm a storyteller. It's not my technical knowledge of taxes, because there are a lot of people who understand the system as well as I do, who understand the rules as well as I do. It's how do you put the rules together? How do you find the right concepts and strategies? How do you time them, combine them, and sequence them? So the primary stories that I'm going to be talking about are how you can use the rules to save money, how you can use the rules not just to save money, but to accomplish your financial goal. There are a lot of tax strategies out there that help you save money, but don't necessarily get you closer to your goals. So, Neil, you're a business owner and you're looking to expand your empire. You're looking to expand your client list and expand your reach. That requires, in a lot of cases, money. You need to be able to invest in your business. Now, I could sit down and say, Neil, I've got a great retirement plan where we can put $100,000 away and you don't have to pay tax on that $100,000. And what have I done for you? Well, I've locked your money up where you can't use it for your business, where you can't use it to grow your business. And investing in your own business is probably going to pay off for you more than investing in the stock market or the bond market. So when I sit down with a client, whether it's a guy like you or anybody else, my job isn't just to help you pay less tax. My job is to help you accomplish your financial goals with a minimum of interference from tax. And that's why it's such a custom process. I got a bookshelf behind me, but there is no off the shelf book that says tax plan for somebody like Neil. I can make guesses about your business, but I want to know about your family and your kids and the charitable organizations that you work with and what your long term financial goals are. Do you want to stay in Mentor, Ohio? Do you want to go to a high tax place like New York City or a low tax place like Florida? Do you want to have a string of vacation homes, rental properties, all that sort of stuff? I've got to know all of that so that I can put together a tax plan that tells your story.
And that's because some people want to invest in their business, but yet they're going to pay taxes, so they can't reinvest back in their business.
Sure. So when somebody tells me I want to pay less tax so I have more money to invest in my business, that tells me I need to look at strategies that will increase their cash flow rather than locking their money up. Sometimes tax strategies can actually cost you money. So let's say you've got $100,000 in income and you're in the 37% tax bracket. Absent any planning, you're going to write Uncle Sam a check for 37,000. You're going to walk away with $63,000. Now, you may not want to pay tax. One way to not pay tax is to give the $100,000 to charity. We're going to lower your taxable income by 100,000. You're going to avoid 37,000 in tax. But how much money are you going to have? You're going to have nothing. So the money is all going to be with the charity. That $37,000 tax savings, that doesn't go to you. That goes to the charity. So I've eliminated your $37,000 tax bill, but you've got nothing to show for it. Now, if you really want that money to go to charity, great, great. But there are ways that you can make gifts to charity where it's not going to cost you the full $37,000. We can do advanced tax strategies, charitable trusts, things like that, where you can do the charitable giving and keep some benefits for yourself.
Because sometimes we think we're saving, but we're not, for sure.
Sometimes we think we're saving, but we're not. Sometimes we make bad decisions just to save taxes. In the industry, we say, don't let the tax tail wag the business dog, or don't let the tax tail wag the investment dog. And if you make investment decisions solely on the basis of tax, that's often a mistake. You pay less tax, but you have less money. Ultimately, what you want is money in your pocket, money working towards your specific goals.
Who should listen?
So, who should listen? Anybody who is interested in finances and financial planning should listen because tax planning is a core discipline for financial planning. Anybody who is a tax professional or a financial professional should listen because they'll learn how to do better for their clients. If you're an individual business owner, you should listen because you're going to learn how to think about taxes. If you're a high income W-2 earner, if you've got a family income of 300, 400, $500,000 or up, you should be listening to learn how you can keep more of what you're making, because most CPAs are going to say, "Oh, it's your W-2 income. There's really nothing I can do for you." That's not true. There are things that you can do even as a W-2 earner. So, if you've got financial goals and taxes are getting in the way, come here. If you're working in the financial services space or the accounting space, come here to learn more about how to save your clients money and how you can be more effective yourself. I've helped train over 4,000 CPAs and financial advisors, many of them who have gone on to start their own tax firms or host their own tax podcasts. You can go to the teacher or you can come to the master. Here at the Lyon Share, you're coming to the master.
Well, people need to like and share this podcast with anyone that you said could benefit from this, and make sure you follow Ed on the Lion Share different social media accounts. We appreciate it again, Ed, for you coming by, and look forward to the next podcast.
My pleasure. I'm excited for it.
All
Thanks.
right, that was the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show and the Lion Share Podcast, guys. Take care.